Let's explore Alfred's Premier Piano Course for beginners. Is it worth switching? And how does it compare to other top-selling piano method books? Hey, if we haven't met yet, I'm Phoenix and I'm the Tattooed Piano Teacher. And in a previous video, I shared my 10 categories for comparing piano method books. We're going to use those 10 categories to rate Alfred's Premier Piano Course. By the end of this video, you'll understand what makes Alfred's piano course different and if it has a place in your studio. First, let's talk about the pacing, which means how quickly the series advances in difficulty. The pacing of Alfred's Premier Piano Course is pretty quick compared to other methods. What I mean by that is that the series makes quick advances in skills, difficulty, and note reading ability. This in and of itself doesn't make it necessarily better or worse than other piano method book series, but it's worth noting so that you are giving the right series to the right student. Personally, I like to use Alfred's Premier Piano Course for certain students, but not for other students. Stick around to the end of the video. I'm going to share exactly when I pulled this series off of the shelf and who I think it's perfect for. Quick disclaimer, everything mentioned in this video is from my own personal experience teaching for nearly 20 years and using this series. I realize that other teachers may have a different experience with this and other method book series, and that is completely understandable. Next, let's talk about the positions. The way that positions are introduced and used in this series is pretty similar to other method book series that I've used, including Faber Piano Adventures. Alfred's Premier Piano Course starts on black keys only and then moves to the white keys, similar to other method books. Once the white keys are learned, the students are introduced to a wide variety of variations on middle C position or thumb share C. Every song seems to have a slightly different position. They don't stay in the same position for very long at all, and every song seems to be a new puzzle for them to figure out exactly where to put their hands. This is great for students who need a challenge, who are really good note readers, and who don't mind problem solving when they're starting a new piece. However, this approach can be a little bit frustrating for students that really struggle to figure out where to put their hands for their songs. One thing that is unique in Alfred's Premier Piano Course is that they use a red finger number instead of a circle to indicate moves. Next, let's talk about notation. Alfred's Premier Piano Course uses a guide note approach to introducing new notes, and this is similar to other method books, including the Faber Piano Adventures. Guide notes means that there are certain notes not next to each other that are introduced first and memorized, and then all the notes around them are figured out by knowing the guide notes. This does seem to be kind of the standard way that most piano method book series introduce new notes. However, in my personal experience, although I really tried to use the guide note approach, it hasn't really been terribly successful in my own studio, and I kind of found my own ways to adapt it and work with the students in my own way. However, if you love the guide note approach, then Alfred's got you covered. Along with the guide note approach, I would say that the pacing of new notes being introduced to students is pretty standard compared to other piano method book series. Next, we come to theory. There is a separate theory book that is associated with each level of the Alfred Premier Piano Course. The quantity of theory assignments is a little bit heavier than other series that I've used, meaning that there is pretty much a theory page to assign to every lesson book page. So in my personal experience when using Alfred's, we do tend to skip theory pages here and there because it's just a little bit too much to get through. The theory pages have a tendency to have like 5 different assignments on the same page, so like little mini assignments, which I guess could be a good thing because students aren't feeling overwhelmed with a long assignment. However, it's a lot of instructions and students almost always have questions about their theory pages when using the Alfred Premier Piano Course. So that's another reason that we do end up skipping pages sometimes, is because I often find that I have to describe each of the instructions on the page so that they know how to do it. Next comes technique. And I would describe Alfred's Premier Piano Course as a technique-heavy method book. What I mean by this is, first of all, there's just more technique assignments in the separate technique book that comes along with each level. So again, there's a technique page to be assigned with every single lesson book page. They also include a lot of technique within the lesson book, and they just seem to be really big on building those skills. Some of the assignments in the technique books tend to be very challenging and take a few weeks for some of my students to master. I've also noticed that the technique exercises and songs in the technique book are a little bit harder as far as the positions and the note reading go. So the student has to be kind of up on their note reading skills in order to get the full benefit of the technical exercises. If they're struggling to find their hand positions or they're not the best note reader, then they probably won't get past that note reading stage to even get to the technical skill building level. And if you found this interesting so far, go ahead and hit that like button so I know to make more piano method book series, reviews, and related content. Next, let's talk about the levels or the overall path that this series will take you through. So there are 8 levels of Alfred's Premier Piano Course. There's 1A, 1B, 2A, 2B, and then 3, 4, 5, and 6. By the end of level 6, students will be at a late intermediate level. I believe that this series does take you a little bit farther than some of the other method book series out there, such as the Piano Adventures, as far as your actual skill levels go. And that's probably thanks to the heavy technique and lots of classical music, which we'll talk about in a second. After going through this series, students will be well versed in all styles of jazz, and they will be very adept at playing classical music. Let's talk about the aesthetics of Alfred's Premier Piano Course. If you open up one of these books, you'll notice that the pictures are a little bit different than other series. They have soft watercolor illustrations, so there are no hard lines, there are no bright colors. So this is a very subjective thing. Either you love it or you hate it, but they have this sort of vibe going on the interior pages. Okay, now let's talk about song selection. I think this is another area that this series really shines. If you look at the lineup of composers that writes the music for these books, we have really an all-star cast here. The songs sound really, really good. So if you do have a student that's up for the challenge of the hand positions and the note reading skills required to really pull off the music in these books, then the students are going to be impressed at what they sound like when they learn these songs. They're going to want to play them for their friends and family, and they're going to be great for recitals, and you're going to enjoy them too. So even from the very beginning, the songs are just very interesting sounding. The early levels of the series are very heavy on jazz, different styles of jazz in the lesson book, in the performance book. And then the later levels are really heavy on the classical. Now there are jazz pieces in all the levels and there are classical pieces in all the levels, but that's just kind of the leaning that I have noticed. The supplemental books that also come with this series are very good. There's a jazz, rags, and blues book. There's a pop and movie hits. There's a duets book, masterworks, which is classical literature, and then of course there's a Christmas book as well. My students don't get into these books quite as much as the Faber supplemental books, but they are also good. So what is the price of the Alfred Premier Piano Course series? Well, the price is pretty comparable to Piano Adventures and other piano method series. The 4 core books, the lesson, theory, technique, and the performance books are all priced at $9.99 if you get them without the CD. The lesson book is available for $11.99 with the CD. However, who has a CD player anymore? So you can get the set of 4 core books at list price for about $40. If you're interested in saving some money on piano method books, check out this video right here where I'm going to go through my secret places to buy piano method books where you can save a little bit of money so you don't have to pay the full $40. And as far as availability goes, this is a very easy series to find. It's published by Alfred Publishing, and you can find it in any local music store. You can also get it on Amazon. You can get it directly from the publisher. You can get it wherever piano method books are sold. So let's talk about who this series is for. When do I pull this off the shelf? First of all, I would go to this series if I have someone who has prior musical experience on another instrument, but they haven't played piano before. Because they can really start from the beginning and build up all of those skills, but move along at a quicker pace. This is perfect for someone who already kind of knows how to read music on another instrument or has some musical parents or background of some sort. Also a student who just loves a challenge. Just no matter what you give them, they just eat it up. No matter how hard it is, they want something harder. This is the right student for this series, in my opinion. If you have a student who comes to you, even as a beginner, they are all about classical music and they want to be a classical pianist, then this might be the series for them because this will definitely prepare them. And if they're motivated, then they can do it. Another scenario where I might pull this series off the shelf is if I have two siblings that are different ages or different learning speeds, and they're both starting as a beginner. We don't want them in the same book, but we want them to have a similar learning style, similar note approach. So I might put one of them in, say, Piano Adventures, and then one of them in the Alfred series, and they can complement each other very nicely, but have totally different books and totally different songs. Even the levels are a little bit different, so that helps so that siblings aren't comparing to each other. And the other time I might pull it off the shelf is if I have a student in a different series, but they're just kind of feeling a little bit bored, either by the songs or just by the aesthetics of a different book, and I feel like a change is needed, then sometimes I'll introduce this series. So let me know in the comments if you already use Alfred Premier Piano Course, if you're thinking about using it, and if you would try it for some of your students. Next up is a review of the Wunderkeys Piano Method series. This one is definitely unique when compared to Alfred or Piano Adventures, so you'll definitely want to check that out. I'll see you there.